Welcome back once again, all of my low carb friends, and for those of you who are here for the first time, welcome. Today I have a keto cookie recipe for you that is sure to impress your friends and family. Today I'm going to show you how to make super simple Keto Cinnabon cookies. Now these cookies look like they'd be difficult to make, like you spent a lot of time with detail and effort, but in reality they are super easy to make. And if you want a printable version of this recipe, you can check out my website at janet'sdeliciouslowcarbkitchen.com. You can find a printable version of this recipe and other goodies there for you. And if you're new to the channel and you want to see lots of easy, delicious, low-carb keto recipes, make sure you click that subscribe button and click the notification bell that's right next to the subscribe button. That way you can be notified every time I put out videos, at least every Wednesday and Saturday. And if you'd like to help support the channel, make sure you scroll down in the description of the video. You'll see some affiliate links. Anytime you purchase anything using those affiliate links, a small portion of your purchase will go to me and help support the channel. So while you do all that, let's get cooking. Preheat your oven to 375 degrees. Line a large baking sheet with parchment paper and set it aside for a minute. In a large mixer bowl, combine 3/4 cup of room temperature, very soft butter. You don't want this melted, but you do want it to be soft so it mixes in easier. Add 66 grams or around 1/3 cup of the brown sugar sweetener of your choice. I'm using brown monk fruit sweetener. You can use whatever brown sugar sweetener you want. You can also adjust this more or less depending on how sweet you want your cookies. Add 25 grams or around 2 tablespoons of the granulated sweetener of your choice. I'm using granulated monk fruit sweetener. Again, you can use whatever sweetener you want. And again, you can adjust this more or less depending on how sweet you want your cookies. Beat on low for about 10 seconds or just until everything starts combining together. Then increase your speed to medium and beat on medium for 1 minute or until everything is smooth. If you don't have a standing mixer, you can use a hand mixer or just a wooden spoon and hand stir it yourself. Scrape down the sides of the bowl and push everything to the center of the bowl. Add 2 large room temperature eggs. Make sure they are room temperature so they beat in more smooth. Beat on low for about 10 seconds or just until the egg starts combining with the other ingredients. Then increase your speed to medium-low and beat on medium-low for another 30 seconds or until everything is fully combined. Scrape down the sides of your mixing bowl if you need to and push everything to the center of the bowl. Add 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. You can adjust this more or less depending on how much of a hint of vanilla you want in your cookies. Add 5 grams or around 1 teaspoon of baking powder. 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. Again, this is another thing that you can adjust more or less according to how much of a cinnamon taste you want in your cookies. Add 84 grams or around 3/4 cup of coconut flour and 1 gram or around 1/4 teaspoon of xanthan gum. The xanthan gum is to help your dough be flexible so that when you roll it up to shape these cookies, your dough will stay together and will be stretchy enough so that it does not crack. You technically can leave this out, but if you do leave this out, you run the risk of your dough not being flexible enough to roll without cracking. If you don't have xanthan gum or just don't want to use xanthan gum, you can substitute it out for psyllium husk powder or cognac powder. They both work well. The texture will be slightly different, but still should have the same flexibility. Beat on low for about 10 seconds and then again increase your speed to medium and beat on medium until everything is fully combined and a smooth dough has formed. Once again, if you need to, scrape down the sides of the bowl and push the dough to the center of the bowl. Then form your dough into a smooth ball. Then we're going to test the dough and make sure we have the right texture by massaging it around in our hands just a little bit. Then take a portion of the dough and roll it around in your hands, kind of stretch it a little bit. You want to make sure that the dough is going to be staying together and has a little bit of stretch to it so that when you are shaping it, it won't crack. Your dough should be moist, but it should not be sticky or sticking to your fingers. My dough is a little bit too sticky for me. It's sticking to my fingers a little bit. So I'm going to add 7 more grams or around 1 tablespoon more of coconut flour. You may or may not need to add a little bit more coconut flour. Once you have the right texture, form your dough back into a smooth ball, place it back in the mixing bowl and set it aside for just a second. Line a clean surface with parchment paper or a silicone mat. Place your dough ball in the center of your work surface. Then press or roll out your dough to a rectangle that's around 9 inches by 13 inches in size, and that's roughly around a 1/4 inch thick, give or take a little bit. Doesn't have to be precise. You just want to have a nice, even, long rectangle. If you are using a rolling pin and not your hands, make sure that you cover the dough with another piece of parchment paper before you start rolling. Otherwise, the dough will stick to your rolling pin. Once your dough is rolled out to a nice smooth rectangle, then set it aside for just a minute while we make the filling. In a microwave-safe measuring cup or bowl, combine 1/4 cup of butter, 100 grams or around a 1/2 cup of the brown sugar sweetener of your choice. Again, here I'm using brown monk fruit sweetener. You can use any sweetener you want. Add 2 teaspoons of ground cinnamon. Then microwave the mixture for about 20 to 30 seconds or just until the butter is completely melted. Don't cook this too long because it can start getting a little sticky, so you're just looking for the butter to be fully melted. Then use a fork and stir everything all together until the filling is fully combined. Spread the filling evenly over your dough. Make sure you leave some empty space around the edges so that when you go to actually shape your cookies, the filling doesn't come out the sides. Once the filling is evenly spread, grasp the edges of the parchment paper that's under your dough. Start with the widest side that is closest to you and carefully roll the dough up into a tight, smooth spiral log. Use the paper to help guide the dough as you're rolling it. Make sure as you're rolling it that you keep the dough nice and tight and keep it smooth at all times. Once the dough is rolled, lightly dampen your fingers and rub your fingers across the bottom seam to seal the bottom seam. Keep your dough log on your parchment paper and roll the parchment paper around the dough log. Then wrap the dough log in some plastic wrap and place it in the freezer for about 20 minutes. This is just going to help firm up your dough a little bit so that it's easier when you're slicing the cookies. After 20 minutes, remove the dough from the freezer. Use a sharp knife and cut the dough into slices that are around a 1/2 inch to 1 inch thick, depending on how thick you want your cookies. As you're slicing the cookies, place the slices on your prepared baking sheet. Make sure when you're placing them on your baking sheet that you space them around 2 inches apart, somewhere around in there. You're going to need room to press out the cookies a little bit more. Once the cookies are all on your baking sheet, then use your hands and just slightly flatten down the tops of your cookies into a flat circle shape of your desired thickness. However thick you're going to want your cookies, that is up to you. Pressing them down flat a little bit, this helps seal all of those spiral layers that are in there. If you don't flatten the cookie down, those spiral layers will most likely either crack or bake together and you won't be able to see that nice spiral shape. Make sure again, as you are pressing these out, that you still leave space in between each one of the cookies so there can be a nice even airflow between all the cookies and have a nice even bake. Once your cookies are all shaped, place them into your preheated oven. Bake at 375 degrees for 8 to 10 minutes or until the cookies are lightly golden. Once the cookies are done baking, remove them from the oven and allow them to cool on the pan for at least 10 minutes or until they've firmed up a little bit. Once the cookies have firmed up, transfer them to a wire rack, then allow them to cool completely. Once the cookies are cooled completely, you can eat them just as they are, or you can top them with a little bit of glaze. I am topping them with a little bit of glaze because that gives them more of the Cinnabon type flavor. So for the glaze, all you have to do is whisk together 64 grams or around a 1/2 cup of powdered sweetener and 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract and 15 milliliters or around 1 tablespoon of the milk of your choice until they are completely smooth. All right, we are back with my yummy looking little cookie. It smells so good. It has that nice little cinnabon smell. And if you can see there, got that nice little cinnamon roll type swirl. Got a little bit of light glaze on it. Looks really good, smells really good. Let's see what this tastes like. Yes, yes, yes. Yummy. This would definitely suffice my Cinnabon craving. It's got a nice, soft texture. I want that soft texture that kind of reminds me of a Cinnabon. Very, very, very yummy. Tasty. You can eat these immediately. If you do have any leftovers, store them in an airtight container at room temperature for up to 5 days, or in an airtight container in your refrigerator for up to 1 week, or you can place them in a freezer-safe container and freeze them for up to 1 month. Eat and enjoy. And that's our recipe of the day. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did and you want to see more videos like this, make sure you click that thumbs up like button, click that subscribe button, leave me a comment if you want to. Let me know if there's any recipes that you'd like to learn how to make, and I'll do what I can to get those out there for you. And as always, keep cooking.